This fish was grown by the government and then released into public water for you and me to catch. Trout stocking dates as far back as the 1800s. And every year in my state, Fish and Game raises trout from eggs all the way to adults in state-run hatcheries.
All of mine.
Then they fill up these big trucks and drive all around the state, dropping these fish off. Fishermen like me and Albert then go to these bodies of water to catch these fish.
What are you gonna do? Just put it back, or are you gonna eat it?
No, we're gonna eat it, yeah.
And you better believe that trout are delicious too.
Here we go, baby, come on.
But first, let's see where these fish come from. I'm at a state-run hatchery to see exactly how these fish are raised. And I brought with me my niece and nephew who are 3 and 6 years old. And they've never seen a trout before, let alone a hatchery full of them. And their minds are about to be blown. Because the very first thing we saw were the giant broodstock fish. These are trout that are kept at the hatchery for multiple years, and their eggs and milk are used to make subsequent generations. We then made our way to the section where you can feed the fish. And as luck would have it, we got there right as they were loading up the truck with trout. These guys had a very good system. As you can see, it's a 4-person job. One guy holds a screen that keeps the fish in the pool pinned in a small area, so the second guy can use a net to scoop up 100 fish at a time.
Rainbow trout.
Look at all those rainbow trout. What do you think, Theo? A lot of fish or no?
He then throws the fish on a scale and shouts out the weight for the third guy to write it down.
25.
He then hands it off to the fourth guy, who loads the fish into the truck. But the most interesting thing is being able to feed these fish. On site, there's a little quarter vendor, and for 25 cents, you can get a fistful of fish feed.
The handle. Until you hear, keep going.
Put it in the water now. Let's go find some fish.
All right. Ready to go feed some fish?
Yep.
All right, let's go. So just take a little bit of the feed and just throw it into the net over there.
Like this? Ah! So you just take a handful and throw it in. Ah! Let's get more. Hey, where's the quarter?
And pro tip, if you do bring your kids here, make sure to tell them not to dump out their feed all in one go, or else you're in for an expensive day.
There you go. Continue to scoop. Careful, don't drop your cup now.
A little light rain. It's a little cold this morning, but I mean, the hatchery guys are super nice. It's a beautiful day, and we're just feeding fish and having a good time. What's not to love?
What's not to love, Willow? Go ahead. Oh, careful, Theo, don't fall in.
Now that we saw what the hatchery looked like, it was time to go to one of the many stocked lakes in the state and catch one of these fish in the wild. So we made one last round for the kids, and I linked up with my boy Albert to go fishing.
What is up, guys? I'm here with Albert, and we're here to catch stock trout.
It's pretty chilly. It's pretty cold.
Yeah, it's like 35 degrees, blowing like 10 to 15.
I don't think the fish mind, dude. This is pretty fishy weather, I will say.
Yes, overcast, light wind. We're on the wind-blown side too, so it's some trouty weather. Trout are cold water fish, so cold weather doesn't seem to bother them as much as it bothers us, but we are freezing.
Now, a very common bait that people like to use is something called power bait. It's a synthetic scented bait that's meant to imitate the food that the trout are fed in the hatchery. But you tell me if it looks like the pellets or not. It also comes in a variety of colors that trout fishermen get strangely particular about.
Yo,
All right, Cam, question for you.
shoot,
What color power bait do you fish?
orange.
No other color?
No,
Why?
I've seen orange outfish all the other colors on multiple occasions.
But I've seen chartreuse outfish other colors on multiple occasions.
Well, that's fake news.
You wouldn't fish any other color. You wouldn't fish green.
No,
What if other people are catching them on green?
I'll catch them on orange.
You get the idea. But at last we had some action.
If there's a bite. Oh, yeah. Did I get him? I did. I got him. Oh, yeah. Let's get this sick net shot. You're right. You're right.
She's a rainbow trout. Oh,
We got a little 12-inch stocky.
I did. Oh, she saw the net. She didn't like
We
that.
call this a Massachusetts steelhead. Oh, baby. Thanks.
We had officially caught our first stock trout of the day. Now in Massachusetts, the state that I live in, the limit is 3 fish per person per day, meaning between the two of us, we could have 6 fish. But before I could get my bait back out there, some folks came up and started talking with me.
Okay, cool. With trout and what else?
Yeah, they use a couple species. So they have brown trout, they have rainbow trout, which is this one, and they have brook trout.
He's totally rainbow.
Oh yeah, you can look at it.
Nice pink color.
Ooh, can I get a pic?
Oh yeah.
That's freaking sick. I'm gonna tell everyone I caught it.
You want a picture with the fish?
What are you gonna do? Just put it back, or are you gonna eat it?
No, we're gonna eat it. Yeah,
Thanks.
sure.
Take it easy.
You too.
Now you might be wondering, how do me and Albert even know that there's fish in this body of water to begin with? Well, my state and most states, if they have a trout stocking program, they usually publicize it. All you have to do is look up your state and look up the trout stocking report. They'll tell you exactly what fish are stocked and where they're at. And if you think this is just a Massachusetts thing, I was able to find that New York, California, and Montana all have stocking programs. So what are you waiting for? See what your state stocks and get out there and fish. Now back to Albert and I finishing our trip to the grocery store.
Yeah, I got him.
Give me that net. Oh, your chain was in my one.
Dude. Hey.
All right, guys, here's our stocked rainbow. If you handle rainbows and you're trying to release them, you should get your hand wet first. The idea is that rainbow trout and all trout have a protective slime coating around them, and they're supposedly delicate. Now, these guys, we're gonna eat them, so it doesn't really make a whole difference if we wet our hand or not.
Oh, just ate it out of my hand. Again. Yeah, we got him. Missed him.
This little stock rainbow.
Oh God.
Go down. Did you lose him?
Safely released.
Unfortunately, I'd sabotaged Albert's first trout, and not long after that, the bite turned off, so we decided to just take the L and head home with our 4.
We could have had a limit, but voluntarily released 2, involuntarily released 1.
But right as I was bringing in this last rod here and getting ready to go home,
Oh, dude.
Are you freaking?
What? Dude, did I just catch that on the retrieve?
Did you slam it? We caught 5!
That is so
The
stupid.
camera's over.
The camera's been rolling, dude.
Oh my god, this is hilarious. You are not going anywhere.
we were now just 1 fish away from getting a limit, which meant, of course, we had to stay and catch that last fish. And not long after, we got him.
Oh, I'm on. Yo, I just got 6. Dogging me.
That's a good.
Hey. This fatty makes 6.
Here you go, guys. It's a 2-man Massachusetts rainbow trout. There.
We had successfully caught as many trout as we legally could, which meant it was time to clean these guys up and make lunch. And today, that's a smoked trout bagel sandwich inspired by Zucker's in New York City. The very first thing I did was cut the heads off and set them aside, because they're actually very useful to make soup stock. Next, I'm removing the skin using my fingernail. I basically use my thumb to slowly separate the skin from the meat. If you're doing this to your very first trout, don't be afraid to take your time, because the last thing you want to do is damage the meat or damage the skin, which we're going to set aside for a special treat for my niece at the end of the video. Anyway, back to trout skinning. The easiest way I found to do this is to start from one rib cage with your thumb and work your way all the way to the top of the fish. This should leave the rib cage on one side completely exposed. Then flip the fish over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Once the two sides of open skin meet, slowly work your way from the head of the fish down towards the tail until you get to the vent. Then firmly grasp the fish and pull the skin off just like you're removing a sock. And voila, skinned trout. To save the skin, just make one cut to turn it from a tube of skin to a sheet of skin. Now you might be wondering, why go through the trouble of skinning these trout? Why not just smoke them as they are? Well, the proper way to cold smoke fish takes like 20 hours to do, and ain't nobody got time for that. So removing the skin allows us to do this quick and easy at-home version that takes less than 2 hours, and the final product is like 90% of the way there. Take your skinned trout and add them to a bowl where you're gonna add a light layer of salt and a light layer of brown sugar. You're supposed to measure out exactly a 1-to-1 ratio, but I'm gonna be honest, I eyeball it every time. Be sure to rub that brine into the fish, and don't forget the inside of the cavity too. While I let that baby sit for an hour or so, I'm gonna fire up my grill for indirect smoking. This is why I love this recipe. You don't need an expensive fancy smoker, just your basic kettle grill will do. I'm gonna start a fire with some pieces of oak from my backyard and some paper that I saved from an Amazon order. That's lump charcoal on the bottom. I find using lump over briquettes produces way less ash and thus allows for more consistent airflow if you're smoking food like this. Then I'm covering the grill with the air vents open about halfway to let the temperature get to about 300 degrees-ish. And 10 minutes later, that's exactly what I want to see for indirect smoking. A nice little pocket of hot coals right where the air vent is located. I can cook my food without worrying about thick white smoke that gives my food a bitter, acrid flavor. Fish then goes on, and I'm pointing the tails towards the fire so it kind of shields the meat from the main heat source because I don't want them to burn. And about an hour later, this is what they look like. The trout now has a mahogany hue to it, and some of the edge pieces have even started to caramelize a little bit. The meat is firm and not mushy, and they removed from the grill with just a few scrapes of my spatula parallel to the grates. Now for the fun part, deboning. If you ever seen videos of those fancy seafood restaurants where the waiter debones the sole table side, this is the exact same idea. The trout should be tender enough that it comes off the bone cleanly, but not so tender that it disintegrates. This recipe allows you to remove the loins in big chunks, almost like a tuna. Watch how I can remove the upper loin in one big piece and the bottom section near the ribs the exact same way. The bottom's a little bit trickier though because you have those rib bones, but with a little bit of finessing you can get it off boneless all in one go. Now for the coolest part of the deboning, look at how cleanly that skeleton comes off in one pull. Every morsel of meat is gone. Especially since stock trout are so small, if I just filleted and removed the skin with a knife like most people do, I'd only have a few dinky pieces of fish that would only be enough for maybe 1 or 2 sandwiches. If I were to guess, the yield with this method is around 80% at least. The only thing to note is that trout have pin bones, which are these tiny bones that go laterally in the upper loin. But stock trout are so small that you won't even notice them if you prepare them this way. And to prove it to you, I'm gonna serve this smoked trout sandwich to someone without telling them about the pin bones and ask them if they noticed any bones.
I'm going in. It's good. The color of the trout is gorgeous. Yeah. It's like the lightest pink. Beautiful.
I know, I actually want to get this chunk of the trout.
Lastly, it's time to take care of the trout skin. I have my seasoned cast iron pan with no oil on medium heat. Then I'm just going a couple minutes on each side until golden brown, making sure to lightly salt each side. The result? Delicious trout skin chips. And that's literally all there is to it. All you need is trout skin, salt, and a pan of some sort. And the best part is that this recipe is very forgiving because if you screwed up the skinning job when you were skinning the trout earlier, all those little morsels of meat make the trout skin chips taste even better.
Have you ever had this before?
No, never. This is the first time.
It's a great way to utilize a piece of fish that people otherwise would just throw away, and it's literally one of my niece's favorite things to eat of all time.
How come this is such a big piece?
Because it's the entire trout skin. What do you think? What would you rate it out of 10?
10.
A 10 out of 10?
Thank you if you've watched all the way to the end. Make sure to check out this exclusive merch drop.